Hi! I have been in Minecraft YouTube hell for the last 2 weeks. There's a reason that the last video I made was about a song in the Minecraft OST. It's all I can think about. It's funny, my friend Elizabeth, who most likely made the thumbnail for this video, one day came over to my house and played Minecraft with me. It was over a year ago, and that was actually the last time we played Minecraft together, and I remember showing her around my university project when, just outside the main college campus, she built this. Then again, I'm pretty used to her chaotic bullshit, so the fact that there was a smooth stone truck that was definitely not a drug van with a flaming netherrack dildo on the top, I don't think it really fazed me. But nevertheless, I still asked her where she got the idea from, because it's just one of those things where you have to ask questions when you have no clue what this is. I asked her about it and she just could not resist, proceeding to recite almost the entire history of the DreamSMP up until the point it was that September. Oh boy! Everything about DreamSMP, the revolution, Pogtopia, J-Schla, and of course, the center of it all, L'Manberg. L'Manberg? I want to say L'Manberg because, and to quote Wilbur Soot, it makes it look more European. I'm making it look like she forced this down my throat, so just to be abundantly clear, she did not. I actually asked her to shove all this information into my one operating brain cell because I found it funny and ridiculous, which, I mean, it is. Oh my god. Just as a nation of Hamilton rejects started because of a business relating to blaze rods and drugs and explosive diarrhea, my obsession with DreamSMP started with a 12-year-old making a drug van. It all starts with a motherfucking drug van. But to the point about the Hamilton references, yeah, there were a lot of Hamilton references in this thing. Don't expect me to stitch together some kind of compilation. If you're here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Here is my thing about Hamilton. I'm drawn to it for a very particular reason, and it has nothing to do with history, and it doesn't even have anything to do with the music. To me, Hamilton is a character drama, a very sing-songy soap opera that only exists on Broadway and Disney Plus. I suffer under the delusion that Hamilton is something that has reached such heights that nothing can reach the same levels of sophistication or simply quality than it. So when I first saw all the videos, and I do mean all the videos of the whole L'Manberg saga, from the Revolution all the way up until Wilbur blowing everything up, when I watched those videos, only on Wilbur Soot's YouTube channel by the way, my brain did one of those like half backflips, you know, like when it like folds one way but then folds back the other and goes, wait, I feel something. I don't want to fall into the Minecraft YouTube rabbit hole. I don't think it's a source of shame to not want to fall down there because it is terrifying. Dream stands are freaky and horny and bitchy, and I don't want anything to do with them. So in the interest of not falling into the DreamSMP abyss completely, I said, okay, no more viewpoints for me. I'm only watching the videos on Wilbur Soot's channel about DreamSMP. I am not going to watch anybody else's perspective lest I descend down into the chaotic depths of hell. Which caused some interesting gaps in my knowledge. For one, I didn't really know what was going on with Tommy and his dicks. Tommy and the discs! I also didn't know who Nihachu was, although honestly, it wasn't that difficult because, let's face it, Ranboo may have silk touch hands, but Wilbur Soot is the protagonist, nay I say the tragic hero of the DreamSMP. You see, the statement that Wilbur Soot is the protagonist probably makes sense, but it's also a little bit problematic just because you can frame the story to have anybody else be the protagonist. Tommy Innit is the obvious example. He's the loudmouth anime protagonist that, you know, gave away his discs to start the motherfucking country, kept everything together, held Wilbur together when he was going absolutely fucking insane during Pogtopia. He was the voice of reason. He was the one that lived for his country. There's also a case to be made for Tubbo, the already successful and wealthy businessman who decided to join a nation after being coaxed by Wilbur Soot, only to later become a spy that was torn between the two sides and then killed by Technoblade, only to later ascend to the presidency. Then there's Techno himself, who's just the weird mercenary anarchist that farms potatoes and wants chaos. I mean, it would be a very different story from his perspective, but that would still work. And this is the beauty of SMP style storytelling. Everybody streams their own perspective, everybody is telling their story from their own lenses, but at the same time, it's the same whole story. So that way, everybody is kind of the main character. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty well established that Wilbur is the main character, but yeah, it fleshes out the narrative really effectively in a way that no other storytelling medium like a live stream can ever possibly do, and slowly but surely it built up this irresistible urge within me. My writer's soul escaped me and wanted to use it. I just take an already existing storyline, take some but not all of the story beats and some but not all of the characters, and recontextualize it, usually with a different ending. And the story of a man who formed a nation in the form of liberty, only to succumb to his inner chaotic urges and blow the entire place into smithereens, it was just perfect. Surrounded by brilliantly compelling characters that were at once hilarious but also serious and motivated legitimately, I just had to do it. I had to write it. And plus, Minecraft YouTube fan art has definitely gone in a more art direction lately. I think back in the day, there was a lot more writing and music especially involved, think Captain Sparkle's parodies, but now it's very heavily focused on digital art. And writing kind of tends to get a bad rep. I wonder why. I'm not going to address the whole dream not found problem in this video because that's a completely different thing, but yeah, no, moving on. Writing as a form of fan art has always gotten a bad rep on the internet as just this terrible thing that's usually based around sexual fan fiction, so I kind of wanted to fight against that. I had this story that was incredible and I needed to retell it in some way or another. I wanted to take these live streams and turn them into a proper literary work. And since there are literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage, it was perfect. It had enough details to constitute a novel. And so, internet, I got to work. And immediately, before I could even map out the whole timeline in words, I ran into my first problem. That's Wilbur's van. That's a drug van. You think an entire nation can be founded on the guise of a drug van? There's a lot of weird shit on the DreamSMP, but it makes sense in the same way that a lot of Minecraft roleplay content makes sense. See also Athmal, Phoenix Drop, High Shenanigans, Sam Gladiator, Yandere, Owl Sex, popular MMOs, Titanic roleplay bullshit, and of course, we cannot forget about this Stampy clip.
And then one day I noticed he was building a castle, and I came to the logical conclusion he was gathering an evil dog army to take over my world.
Shalat is probably the best example of this. A senile, drunken old man that used to be banned from the server getting unbanned because somebody bribed Dream or something like that, who just hops onto the podium when he's supposed to give an endorsement for POG 2020, only to announce that he's running himself literally days before the election? I don't think that would fly in a real book. I mean, come on, that guy is so transparently evil that it only works in an SMP style setting like this. If that wasn't a novel, then it would just be like, why does he exist? And he just kind of asserted himself? How? I mean, I know he made a coalition government with Quackity, but like, how? Quackity had the bigger following. He should have become the president because he had greater sway over Schlatt. Then again, maybe it's because Quackity needed Schlatt because he knew that Pog was gonna win if he didn't have Schlatt, but this... And the excuse is that everybody's got a fat ass, which, like, fair. So, if you haven't noticed, the DreamSMP, kinda weird, kinda wacky, kinda strange, a bit bamboozling, if you will. All of this stuff works because it's a series of live streams on a Minecraft SMP. It's simultaneously deeply and meticulously planned, but also extremely unplanned. It's chaos at its finest. So essentially, it's exactly what happens when you throw a bunch of theater kids in a room together. I wanted to write a novel about DreamSMP because there's story potential there. Wanted, past tense, for reasons I'll get to in a bit. But the beauty of those story beats, that's still in present tense simply because there's still an incredible amount of story potential in that very basic idea of guy founds nation, guy blows it up because he goes fucking insane. They are still incredible and unique story beats that can and have amounted to something beautiful. DreamSMP is a work of art. And here's the thing, different stories are more fit for different media. You always wonder why, let's say, live action versions of anime are always so fucking bad. Or video game movies, because, like, it's essentially the same thing, but on the other hand, they just kinda suck. Especially with that anime example, there are certain things that anime can get away with that live action just can't. Weird example, but my point still stands. Different media are more suited for different types of stories, and only the very core basic ideas can really translate between the different mediums. Side note, this is actually what makes copyright court really fucking difficult. The whole idea is that ideas can't be copyrighted, but execution can, but like, where is the line between execution and idea? It makes no fucking sense. How specific do we need to get in order to make a good adaptation? Is that even necessary? Does it make it more sophisticated to adapt it to a different medium that's not live streams in Minecraft? Is it not, but it would be better because it would reach a wider audience? Is that technically stealing? Is it not stealing if you use a certain amount of idea? There are so many questions here. Is the government going to regulate the internet out of existence? Are the companies? We know it's possible, just look what happened to Tumblr. And here we get to the interesting part. The goal of media is to get people to think. DreamSMP just sent me down a copyright law spiral. Different stories, different executions of core concepts are more suited for one medium than another. So, if you hypothetically want to adapt a certain story to a different medium, how can you do it? You change it, or rather, you adapt it. You get rid of some of the faithfulness to the original, which honestly isn't as bad as people make it out to be. I liked the story of the DreamSMP, but the whole idea of just writing an entire novel about it, and the fact that I didn't know that much about war and politics and stuff like that just kind of took me away from it, and I completely changed my idea. I still wrote something about it, but it turned out way different from anything that I had back then. Instead, I took this idea and I decided to do something drastically different with it. I recently started taking this weird, ungraded, technically not an extracurricular class, but also technically not a core class about poetry. Which, yes, is exactly as dorky as it sounds, and the fact that I only have 3 classmates just adds to the dorkiness, like, by 1,000. It was around the time when I was going through my whole DreamSMP obsession when we were talking about poetry as stories in class. About how novels and short stories need everything to fit together very cohesively and nicely so that everything makes sense and that there's a big payoff at the end where everything is just found out. Poetry isn't like that. It's weird. It can blend together in ways that you never really expect, and you can use it to convey ideas without the need to really resolve them. You can end a poem ambiguously and it can still be good. In fact, most poets do. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty perfect for DreamSMP. Essentially, I just sat there for a little bit and thought, what was it that drew me to the DreamSMP so much? And honestly, I think the beauty of it is just the fact that they're all friends doing improv together, and that they're kind of bullying each other because they're kind of half-acting but not actually acting. See also Technoblade, just not trying at all. But it blends together perfectly, and I decided to write about it. I told the story about a 14-year-old boy called Wilbur Eglinton, that's the descendant of the founder of his nation, that's the star in his school play about the founding of the nation, but then all his classmates just start going haywire. A guy called Simon just kind of yells, "Drugs!" And then it all goes downhill from there, which doesn't really make sense, but the kids had fun, and that's kind of all that mattered. Don't stick to a medium once you commit to it. It's okay to change, and don't be afraid to lose faithfulness to an idea. That's the whole point of taking inspiration, is taking an idea, transforming it, and making it your own. And that, dear internet, is where my obsession with the DreamSMP has led me. I don't even want to know what's been happening after the fall of L'Manberg, so I'm not even gonna ask, but for now, thank you all very much for watching. I sincerely do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, comment what you thought, all that good stuff, but for now, this is Peter Yash, signing off.